Now, there was chaos on the streets of Amsterdam last night as Israeli football fans were attacked, leaving the match between Ajax and Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Well, it's resulted in the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, deploying 2 rescue planes to bring his citizens home. Well,
GB News' Home and Security Editor Mark White joins us now. What do we understand happened, Mark?
Well, some really shocking scenes that played out over a number of hours in Amsterdam, and as well as this rescue effort that is now underway, there will be in tandem with that an inquiry into how on earth this was allowed to play out in the way it did. What we understand is that there was a large group of pro-Palestinian protesters who had planned to hold a protest at the Johan Cruyff Arena in Amsterdam, where Maccabi Tel Aviv were there being hosted by Ajax in a Europa League match. That particular protest was banned. A large group of protesters still marched to the area around the stadium and were met with riot police. But it was really after the match that things escalated. You're looking at the images there of people literally being chased down. There are other images showing people on the street being very severely beaten. Some people that have been pushed into the canals with threats that they would be drowned unless they shouted "Free Palestine." Other people that have been seen being run over. An absolutely horrific event, and understandably the Israeli government very concerned about what has played out on the streets of Amsterdam, and that's why they are now in the process of sending 2 planes to try to take those fans back to Israel or whatever other destination they need to go to. In the meantime, Israeli and Jewish citizens who are in Amsterdam and were there for the march, or the match I should say, are being urged to stay in their hotels or whatever other property they're in until arrangements can be made to get them safely to the airport and out of Amsterdam.
It is a strong response from Israel sending the planes. What do we know about the Dutch authorities in all of this, just quite how they're responding? Because, I mean, it is absolutely appalling.
Yes, no, it absolutely is. There are some tough questions that will be asked of the authorities in Amsterdam about how this was allowed to escalate. There are well-worn procedures in all European capitals for dealing with big international football matches, and that's to police appropriately, to have large numbers of officers depending on the potential risk. And no one could have said that there wasn't obviously a risk associated with this match, given that pro-Palestinian protesters were already planning that protest outside the stadium. And as it escalated, there were some scuffles before the game, the protest that tried to get to the arena. The authorities, you would have thought, would have been alive to what was happening, but yet you can see from the images of people being chased down in central Amsterdam that there seems to be very few police. There's a police van passing there, but really not responding to what are marauding groups of pro-Palestinian protesters chasing down these fans and badly beating them up. So there will be an investigation into why the response was the way it was and what more could have been done to mitigate against the protests and keep these people away from visiting fans.
Okay. Mark White, thank you very much for keeping us updated.
Just unbelievable that this is happening.
Such shocking scenes, isn't it? Just awful.
Disgraceful.
Thank you.
Matthew, let's start with this breaking news that we've had in the past few minutes. The Israeli military has said it's preparing to deploy an immediate rescue mission following what they describe a very violent incident targeting Israeli citizens in Amsterdam.
Yeah, so this is really, really concerning. What basically has happened is there was a football match last night between the Israeli club Maccabi Tel Aviv, who were travelling to Amsterdam for the Europa Cup final against Ajax. After the match, it seems like a bunch of hooligans, and that's what they are, targeted the fans as they were coming out the stadium. There's videos going on social media of a man being kicked and beaten on the ground and another showing someone being run over. It's utterly dreadful, and they're chanting pro-Palestinian slogans as that's going on. I mean, it's a very strong reaction from Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, rightly so, because any of this anti-Semitism is dreadful. It just goes to show what this disgusting pro-Palestinian lobby is, and I think, you know, it's a strong response saying that we will put a flight out to go and pick them up and get them back home. But, I mean, this is dreadful. This is not what football needs, you know? No, it's a disgrace. So we're going to be talking more about this at the top of the next hour with our security editor. In the meantime, let's have a look at in the Telegraph, Lewis, where people aren't, or some people who aren't happy with Donald Trump's election winner, they go on strike.
Yeah, they're going to go on a sex strike, and I am just not a fan of this. I think it's really odd. If you are in a relationship and you're going to go on a sex ban because of outside factors, nothing to do with your relationship, but politics...
But presumably it must be something to do with their partners, their husbands, voting the other way.
Well, I don't know. From this story, it just seems like, you know, women that support this cause, whether they're single or in relationships, and, you know, whether or not their husband might have voted for Kamala, and they would still go on this this sex strike.
Oh, well, let them then.
No, but I think that there is a wider point here about relationships. You know, sex is not a Scooby-Doo snack for, you know, doing good. And I think this has to do with people seeing sex as something bad or not essential in a relationship. You know, sex is part of people's well-being, right? And so if you have, you know, these dudes for Kamala saying, well, I'm not going to let my wife go out and socialise or exercise anymore, we would see that as, oh, well, that's wrong. But actually, we see sex as not part of someone's well-being when it is. And I think that, you know, and if you are in a relationship and you partake in, I'm going to ban sex because something happened outside of our relationship, you know, I don't think you're mature enough to be in a relationship. And it also perpetuates these harmful stereotypes of, you know, women, all they have is sex in a relationship, and that's the only thing they have to bargain with. It's stupid. And for those people that aren't in relationships, I mean, the X this morning is just making a complete mockery out of them with saying, you know, Conservatives saying, well, good, we told you not to have sex before marriage. Others happy the STD rate is going down. Others saying, oh, well, good, woke will finally go out of the gene pool. So this is being widely mocked, and I just think it's not sensible.
And throw it on the other foot as well, this is manipulation. If a man said, well, I'm not going to have sex with you unless, that's manipulative and would be called out. So that's all this is. It's manipulation.
We've only got 45 seconds. Matthew, do you want to tell us about Jeremy Clarkson?
So basically the farmers were going to go on strike after the farmers' tax that Labour brought in. What the flock's going on? Well, it turns out that the NFU, who stand up for the union, are saying we've got legal advice saying we can't do this. So Just Stop Oil, the pro-Palestinians, can chant anti-Semitism and bring our streets to a halt, but the farmers can't stand up to save their farms. It's an utter disgrace.
Have they given a reason why they can't?
At the moment...
Are they concerned about tractors?
Well, this is the thing. They weren't even going to bring tractors down. Jeremy Clarkson actually had put on a coach to bring down farmers so they could stand on the pavements and not disrupt people. So it's actually a disgrace. It just shows that there is two-tier when it comes to protest.
I don't see how they can't do it, and probably should have their voices heard. Matthew, Lewis, thanks very much indeed.